The festival was over and the boys were all planning for a fall. The cabaret was quiet except for the drilling in the wall. The curfew had been lifted and the gambling wheels shut down. Anyone with any sense had already left town. He was standing in the doorway looking like the Jack of Hearts. Bob Dylan's Lily, Rosemary, and the Jack of Hearts, from his 1975 album Blood on the Tracks, is perhaps the best example I know of the novel in song. It has everything a novel does: a setting, multiple scenes, multiple characters and viewpoints, dialogue, backstory, and a dramatic arc that builds to a climax and resolution. But it's also a poem with stanzas, a repeated refrain. It's a poem that unfolds a narrative, hence the term narrative poetry. The scope of poetry is so vast that it's impossible to cover in an introductory course like this. You're all familiar with several different kinds of poetry. There's the haiku, a Japanese form limited to exactly 17 syllables. Or there's the 5-line limerick. There's the sonnet, the villanelle, the sestina, free verse, and on and on. Some poems rhyme, some don't. Perhaps the form of poetry you're most familiar with is the lyrics of the music you listen to. Because I'm a narrative writer, I've chosen to focus on the narrative poem. I've given you two examples, Lily, Rosemary, and the Jack of Hearts, and Casey at the Bat, written by Ernest Lawrence Thayer near the turn of the 20th century. But there are plenty of more examples you can think of. The Charge of the Light Brigade by Alfred Lord Tennyson, The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald by Gordon Lightfoot. You can probably think of half a dozen narrative poems right off the top of your head. Take note of where the poet starts the story. In the Dylan song, it starts when the mysterious Jack of Hearts enters the cabaret. A stranger has come to town, setting off all the action that follows. In Casey at the Bat, the story begins in the 9th inning, with 2 out in the 9th inning, and the crowd clinging to the last hope that Casey will get a shot at winning the game. All the backstory, including the relationship between Lily and Jack, and Casey's reputation and skill, all of that comes after the action has started. This is something you should keep in mind not only in poetry, but in memoir and fiction as well. It's good narrative technique. But unlike prose, poetry is wrapped up in the idea of meter. The rhythm of the language, as well as the words, must move the story forward, as in the limerick.
Said an unhappy golfer named Star, whose scorecard was way over par.
It's not bad enough that my swing is so rough, but this cigarette's rougher by far.
Da-da-da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. That sort of rhythm is called meter, and every poem, whether it rhymes or not, or whatever its structure, has to have it. Our earliest narratives, our earliest stories, Gilgamesh, the Iliad, and the Odyssey, were all written in verse, for the excellent reason that they were more often recited than read. Sometimes they were sung. This is why poetry is so closely associated with music. It should sound good to the ear. The accents on the syllables should fall in such a way that you could, if you wanted to, set it to music. The outlook wasn't brilliant for the Mudville Nine that day. The score stood 4-2 with but 1 inning left to play. And when Cooney died at first and Barrows did the same, a pall-like silence fell upon the patrons of the game. Don't force words to rhyme or force words to be accented wrong just to fit the meter. Choose words that fit the meter. In conclusion, a narrative poem does everything that a narrative story does. It just does it in a compressed format. It has characters, it has a developing storyline with a beginning, middle, and an end, and it has dialogue and a climax. But it also does it using meter, which means that you need to pay attention to the rhythm and the sound of the language. It also means that you need to decide on a structure such as a 5-line stanza, an A-B rhyme scheme, or as Bob Dylan does, a repeated line at the end of each verse. But a narrative poem uses not only the language of storytelling, but the language of sound and meter to relate a narrative.